Alright, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Xilonen, our new 5-star Geo Support unit who can also dabble in a little bit of damage if you hyper invest. But let's be honest, like, who in Genshin Impact at this point? Is the sign distracting? I apologize. Okay, like I was saying, who can't be a DPS if you just put Farina on the team with a decent healer? But anyways, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Xilonen, okay? So there's been a lot of buzz around Xilonen, all good things for the most part, except for like some drama with her like voice actress. Nothing that the voice actress did, it's just people didn't really like her voice at first, but then now people are warming up to it. Typical Genshin. Am I talking too loud? Apparently my sensor bar is going up. Typical Genshin stuff, right? But no, we're going to be talking about her meta analysis, right? How good is she actually in the meta? And if you haven't been seeing things about her, then I'll tell you. She's basically a Kazuha replacement, or at least if you don't want Kazuha and you don't really vibe with Kazuha at all, then you can get this character and never really have to pull for Kazuha. Unless they do something with a new element in the future with Animo, which I doubt, she's going to be a really good replacement if you don't have them, or if you do have Kazuha. Let's get into it. So what does she do? She enters this Night Soul state like every other Natlan character, and she goes on these cool little rollerblades, and she collects these little things called source samples, and essentially she collects them for every element except for Dendro and Animo. So she's not going to be a good support for Dendro or Animo characters, okay? She only shreds the resistances for every other element, while also giving an elemental damage boost because of the new Natlan artifact set, okay? So already she's giving, like, if I'm not mistaken, from the Natlan artifact set, she gives like almost a 40% damage increase, elemental damage bonus just from the Natlan set. And then on top of her talent with the Night Soul thing, if you pretty much like kick around with her roller skates while you're in her Night Soul blessing state, and it reacts with like, or if you have two people in your party that are differing elements, like let's just say you have, I don't know, Pyro and Hydro, okay, or Electro and Hydro, and you kick them in the face, you're gonna get these little samples that will fill up her triangle bars. And what that does is that it literally just ends her Night Soul state, and it gives you it shreds the resistances of enemies nearby you, kind of like what Zhongli's shield does, if I'm not mistaken. But for all elements, or for the elements that were reacted with her Night Soul thing. It's kind of hard to describe with me just like flaring my hands around. But yeah, at talent level 9, she shreds, I think, 33% of the enemy's element that you used for the little triangle Dorito things that you fill up with her, and that's really good. So off the bat, we have 33 to 36% elemental res shred, and then on top of that you have like a 40% elemental damage boost, and that's just from artifact and her talent alone. We haven't even gotten to the part where she can group. I'm just kidding, she can't do that. That's like the biggest thing about her that's different from Kazuha, is that she can't group, and that's not necessarily like a really bad thing about her, because not every situation in Genshin do you need grouping. While she doesn't have grouping, she has one thing Kazuha doesn't have: healing. She can heal your party, and it's actually pretty strong from what I've seen. If you build her with defense, which is what you're supposed to build her with because she's a defense scaling character, she's going to be healing like, I think, 8 to 10k healing per second. It's kind of like a Bennett heal where you have to like cycle through your characters to heal them, but it's really strong, especially in teams where you have like someone like Nuvolette. For example, you could use Nuvolette, Farina, Xilonen, and then Kazuha. Yeah, you heard me. You can do Kazuha and her together with Farina, and now you're just a stupid hyper carry for whoever your main DPS is, and in this case, it's gonna be Nuvolette, okay? Or Mualani. Like, she just enables so many more teams, and I've been seeing so much rhetoric. I mean, it makes sense to pair her against Kazuha, but why not put them together when you can? When you can put Kazuha and her together in a nice little Oreo with the cream in the middle being Farina and the DPS being the person that's gonna eat that Oreo. Oh, this is a really bad analogy. You get what I'm saying though. It's gonna be a fun time, unless you don't like Oreos. And if you don't like Oreos, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Whatever your dessert of choice is. The point is that Xilonen is going to be absolutely amazing, and I say all this to say that at first I was going to skip her, and it has nothing to do with how she looks, how she plays, her voice actress, anything like that, her character, her meta. Like, it has nothing to do with that. I wanted to skip her because right now I'm saving up like a bunch of wishes to pull for the Archon, and I'm being very stingy on who I spend my wishes on. Like, I got Mualani because she's the first Natlan character, and you know, shark make thing go boom, I had to get her, right? And she's been an absolute blast. But now I'm really opening up to getting Xilonen just because of how much potential she has. Not only that, but it would also be nice to not use Kazuha in every team, or have, in a Spiral Abyss situation, have Kazuha on one team and Xilonen on another. So there you go. You have two different really good supports, two of the best supports in the game, excluding Farina, doing pretty much virtually the same exact thing, except one groups and one doesn't. But to Shield's benefit, her buff, if I'm not mistaken, lasts longer than the Viridescent Venerer buff or the Kazuha buff that he provides. I think hers is like, I want to say it's 13 to 15 seconds and Kazuha is like 8 to 10 roughly. So, you know, you get some more leeway with her. Not only that, but she's insanely easy to build like Kazuha. Like I said, it's just triple defense all the way if you don't want to think about anything else and just strictly put her on the support role. Not only that, but like exploration isn't like a big thing for everyone in Genshin, but her exploration for mountains is going to be insane. She's the fastest mountain climber and side mountain goer because she can like wall run sideways out of any character in the game. And if you pair her up with like Kinich or any other characters from Natlan that can like quick swap, like Kachina for example, you could do Kachina and Xilonen together and just score up a mountain like it's nothing. So if you're a really big exploration player, like I'm starting to become a huge exploration player, especially since they're giving us rewards for exploring the map now, it's going to be a really good benefit for you. Now, future possibilities with her. Obviously, I think the Pyro Archon and her are going to be absolutely amazing together. I think it's going to be a situation where it's kind of like Nuvolette and Farina just work so well with each other. Granted, Nuvolette isn't a support, he's a main DPS, and the Pyro Archon's most likely going to be a support like every other Archon, but it would be a cool situation if the Pyro Archon can be a main DPS at C0 with support of Xilonen, and I think that's why I'm really pulling for her, is because I feel like Xilonen is going to be the support going forward. I mean, we have staple supports like Farina. Farina is the support going forward just because she offers so much for the team, but we also have Kazuha, we have Xilonen, who really does. Xilonen isn't really like a support, she's more of a sub DPS, but she also gives like a damage boost to your team with her passive, if I'm not mistaken. But in terms of like raw supports, Kazuha, Farina, and Bennett, Zhengling, if you want to consider Zhengling as a support, she's a support for off-field pyro. But my point is that like Xilonen is just going to set the standard for supports going forward, and the next support is just going to be better than her. Let's be honest, but that's okay because the better characters get, the more teams open up, and I'm okay with that. I kind of just went off on a tangent. I apologize about that. Let's get back on track. Xilonen is going to be an absolutely amazing character, and you know, watching all these guides and videos from the amazing content creators that got to play her early, it really makes me excited to pull for her. In terms of her being a must pull, I don't think any character in Genshin is a must pull, in a sense that like if you don't have this character, you're not going to be able to complete Spiral, you're not going to be able to complete Imaginary Theater. But I would be lying if I said that not having Arlecchino and not having Nuvolette, not having Farina, not having Kazuha, it would make my experience a lot harder. So in terms of like ease of access, if you want to have an easier time with Genshin and like just feel like you're the boss, like you own the enemies in your game and you could just destroy them anytime you want, I think you should definitely pick up Xilonen if you can. Obviously, if you can't spend money on her, that's perfectly fine. If you can only throw a few wishes her way and try to get her, it's going to be okay. If you're saving for the Pyro Archon or for a future character, like Xilonen is not going to be a must pull because no character in the game is, but if you do get her, you're not going to be complaining. It's not going to be a situation where, like, for me, I pulled Ayato right before Nuvolette's banner, and like, what do I do with Ayato? I just sit there and stare at him and think about leveling him up just to get the free wish, because honestly, like, there's no reason for me to use Ayato. Like, not dissing Ayato fans or anything, he's a great Hydro character. It's just like everything I would want to use Ayato for, I have either Nuvolette or Farina for. So it's just like one of those things where, like, if you don't vibe with the character, if you don't like her, if you don't need her, if you don't want her, don't get her. That's the beautiful thing about Genshin, and like any gacha game, you don't have to get these characters, but if you really enjoy them and you really vibe with her and you vibe with the exploration, you vibe with her supportiveness, and you don't have Kazuha, I strongly recommend you get her. To my friends, I'm going to be recommending her because obviously, like, she's an amazing support, and everyone except for my one friend uses different elemental reaction groups. The one I'm talking about, Ducky, he uses a like Alhaitham team, so like Xilonen does absolutely nothing. If you use Kinich or Xilonen or Kinich in Alhaitham and you're like a Dendro or Animo, like a Wanderer fan, like or Zhao, she's not going to do anything for you. So don't really bother picking her up unless you want to use her with other teams. But if you're like hardcore focused on Dendro and Animo, she's not for you. And that's okay, because the Pyro Archon might be. But anyways, that's going to be it for me today. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts and feelings on Xilonen, and hopefully this gave you some, you know, a different opinion out there. Because obviously some people will just be like, yes, get Xilonen, she's going to change the game forever, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's kind of true, but at the same time, you don't have to get her. It's not going to ruin your Genshin experience if you don't get Xilonen. Anyways, hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.